Hey guys, what's up? It's Brittany. Welcome to Beyond Borders with Brittany, and I'm so excited to have you guys here today. And I'm so excited for today's video because it's on one of my favorite places ever. It's on Great Britain, and the reason why Great Britain holds a special place in my heart is because my dad used to actually live there for 10 years, and he always used to tell me stories about how much fun he had when he was there. He literally told me the story once. Him and his friends, they went to a concert and they were out all night, and then they fell asleep in the park. They woke up and they were hungry, and so they were like looking around for something to eat, and they knocked on someone's door. She welcomed them in. She made them a full English breakfast, and she made them biscuits and everything to go. And my dad just made it seem like such a fun place to be, and he always told me that I had to go visit. So I'm just really excited for today's video. And it really is just going to be kind of a guide for you so that you can go and kind of discover what you want to see and find in Great Britain. And it's kind of just a how-to and what's the best and just a little bit of the background information about England specifically, and so that you're all prepared and ready to go when you're ready to go for your trip. So the first part that we're going to talk about is the history of England, and England has really rich history. And it is actually thought that England's history goes all the way back to the Ice Age, which is super far, but the only physical evidence that we have goes back to the Iron Age, and that's when we have evidence of something called hill forts. So you can actually go visit hill forts today still, and it's just like these big hills, or be a bunch of bumpy hills. You can see it right here, and you can basically what they did was they used to fight against each other. Like, obviously there used to be wars, and they would hide behind the fort, and they would just kind of like hide. They would come out and they would like combat, and then they'd go back and hide in the forts. And so that's like the first evidence that we have of England, and that was very long. And then the next age after that was the Anglo-Saxon, but the age that I think everyone is most familiar with is the Middle Age, and that's kind of where Shakespeare was around, and a lot of we have that history and that literature from the Middle Age. And then you go a little bit more, you have the 17th and 18th centuries, and in those centuries we also have a lot of literature. One of my favorite writers and poets, Emily Dickinson, is from that age, and so you have a lot of great history and got a lot of great literature that came out of that time. And then you kind of go on a little bit more, and obviously you come to the modern England that we know today. And so that's just kind of like a brief little run through. A lot of the royal history that we think of, it comes from the Middle Age. So when we think of King Henry and all these great kings and queens, it comes from that time. And so a lot of the history from that time, from the 16th, 15th century, is still there in England. And so this is kind of a transition into why you should go to England. One of the main reasons why is what I just said. England has such great history. And I'm from New York, and so right now I'm always surrounded by really modern buildings and skyscrapers, which is great, and I love it, and I'm never really kind of lose that like love for New York. But what's so beautiful about England is that you have these really old buildings and these really old locations that have been around for centuries that you can visit. And you can walk the same walk that, these old kings and queens that passed centuries ago have been. And you can learn what you learned in your history books. You can see it in person, which is just really awesome, and it's really great. And that's one of the reasons why. And the second reason that I have is that England is so diverse in options of what you can do. So if you love to go on, you love nature, you love outside, you are going to love England because they have the countryside. That's kind of what they called a big piece of land, or, kind of the area of England that's a little bit more out, away from the city. And they have that in Ireland as well, all across Great Britain. And they have these big pieces of land where they have maybe an old castle or an old fort, and they have a whole garden, and you are able to walk, and it's called the countryside, and it's beautiful. Or if you are a little bit more modern, you like to shop and you like to kind of do that, stay in nice hotels, you can go into London, and they have all that there. Of course, they have all the high streets. They call them the high street stores, and you can go and shop there. You can just window shop or just look around. If you love food, England has a great up-and-coming food scene. And, if you love movies or music, obviously you have a lot of history with the Beatles and bands like U2 and Coldplay. Movies like Harry Potter have been filmed in England, and so you can visit all those iconic sites right there in Great Britain itself. And Great Britain has done a great job at marketing And so Visit Britain and Visit England is kind of the main corporation of tourism down there. And they made a marketing plan in 2011, and it was called The Great. And basically they would say the great countryside, just like Great Britain. And they started off with $100 million. They invested and they said, we're going to put these posters out that say Great London, and then it would have a beautiful picture of the city. And they would say, we're going to try to bring in more people into England. And it was extremely successful. In 2016, they learned that they had gained $800 million just from tourism alone. So obviously it's bringing in a lot of money into England. And that's another topic that I would like to talk about, and that's kind of just like the income of tourism and the effect that it has of the local people around there and of their economy. In England alone, tourism accounts for 5% of the jobs, which means that 1.4 million jobs available in England are just from tourism itself. So you're bringing in a lot of people and a lot of jobs for people. And this is kind of where the trickle-down economics comes into play, because you have all these jobs available in tourism, and you have people from outside the country coming, spending money, and then it's going down to the locals, and the locals are able to spend it in the businesses, and then the businesses are able to flourish. And that's why London is so great, and London is so popular. One of my favorite topics to talk about England is the food. I personally consider myself a foodie, and I would love to, when I travel, make sure that I always have great food places to go. And the food scene in England is really coming up. It used to be known as a bland, they used to have bland food. No one used to like their food. But with shows like the Great British Bake Off, and you have chefs like Chef Gordon coming up, and they're kind of becoming a little bit more popular in social media, people are learning that English food is actually really great. So you have the option of eating a full English breakfast, which has baked beans, sausage, and eggs, and that's something that's really different from what we have here in America or other countries. And so people are super extremely interested in trying that out. You also have tea time, which is like an afternoon tea where you can have crumpets and all these different jellies and jams that they have available. So they do have a culture there, and they have a food culture there, and they also have a modern food culture. A lot of people don't know, but the national dish in England is actually chicken tikka masala, which is known to be a Indian dish, but it's actually a fusion between English and Indian cuisine. And it's because they're so close to the border of India, and a lot of Indians do travel to England, and so they made that their national dish. And so there's great curries that are available, a great curry spots that you can go to. It has some of the best curry in England. So that's something you wouldn't expect, but it's something that's available. And that's another great reason to go and travel and learn more about the culture there. Overall, England is a beautiful place to go. It's a beautiful place to visit. I recommend it for any type. You could literally go if you have a family. You can go if it's just you and a spouse or a significant other. You can go on a girls trip, on a guys trip. You can go as a young person. It really just has something for everybody, and that's why I think it's so beautiful. I've heard stories from my dad. I've heard stories from my friends. I've heard my personal stories, and we all kind of took something different from England. And so I think really, at the end of the day, it's something that's worth trying, and I don't see why no one would not want to go. It's something that I think everyone should have on their bucket list. And I really hope this video kind of helps persuade you to get there. I hope it gives you some tips and some tricks, and I hope you can refer to this when you get there, and just comment below if you've been, and if this video maybe persuaded you to go. I would love to know that. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.